now.
Paired. I see it
All right.
now. Everything
All
is
right.
going well. We've got so much to talk
Okay.
about. We've
We'll
got Disney. We've got Trudeau. We've got your favorite Chris Cuomo. Hopefully, my microphone doesn't unpress itself. That's my bad. What were you up to earlier today? Now that you're on East Coast time.
dude. Bro. Actually, this morning is like the first time since I've been here that I was able to like run errands and do things that are not related to work at all because they are. It's a lot of work, bro. I'll just say that. But I'm good.
Well,
I'm apartment hunting, grocery shopping, loads of incredibly unfun logistical things.
you're like a common housewife now, but for yourself. That means think that you're asexual is what that means. And we can say this because we're demonetized on YouTube immediately. But writing about the
We
statistics
haven't
about all
done
these,
anything wrong yet.
they just do it every week in advance. As soon as it goes live, it's demonetized. Challenge it by Tuesday or Wednesday. It's fully monetized. What do you know?
After
It's because
which
it
most
stops.
people have probably tuned in.
Exactly. It automatically stops the reach of it when it's um, demonetized right off the get go. So I've been writing about these colleges and universities, mainly Ivy League schools, that have exploded in LGBT membership, let's call it 23, 35, 39%, even though the national average is like 7% or 6%. Even Gen Z, which is 20%, they're way above this at these Ivy League schools for some reason. And one of the funnier, if not strange, things I've noticed about them is how a bunch of them have like a 6% rate for asexual people. And if you look at the national average of being asexual, it's 0.01%. So somehow all the people who are asexual for all of time go to Ivy League schools. It doesn't make any sense. I thought that was just interesting to point out.
Well, and before I say anything that I don't know what else. I guess they could completely ban us and kick us off. So I'm not going to go too far, but I will say, of course, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I mentioned this. Um, Even as high as the asexual percentage is, that is still more believable than just switching genders, right? Like it is
Yeah,
far more likely, right, that
it's an
somebody
actual
is
thing. I think where your hormones aren't there for sexual desire.
yes.
Obviously, it's a thing.
So that's real versus pretending that you're.
Whoa, man!
Oh well,
My
sorry.
truth, your
Okay,
truth.
all
We
right,
all
all right.
scream for my truth.
And
Uh,
and wait, these crazy percentages though, like they want us to believe that it has zero to do with the. I mean, this is literally the fruits of their labor. You know, like for the past decade or two, the fruits of the indoctrination, the fruits of the propaganda, finally, finally paying off, and they want us to believe that it was just natural. Like, oh, this is yeah,
that's
like
right.
okay,
And
okay.
specifically at expensive schools. And it's their own numbers too. So last week we covered, Peter Dinklage, Disney, and Dylan Postal, the other dwarf actors, and how silly it was that they can't hire dwarf actors. Disney said that these photos that were leaked were not actually their photos. They've been photoshopped, they said. And we finished filming in 2022. These couldn't be our photos, by the way, guys. And then they had all this stuff about it being a whole concoction of inclusivity and everything that's going to play the dwarves. The only part that was supposedly true about it, Eric, was the fact that there was only one dwarf out of the seven dwarfs. How in Wakanda, the Black Panthers, only one of seven Panthers was black, is how I compare it. But Disney, according to Bounding into Comics, admitted that the photos were real. And this page scrolls really quick for some reason, so I'm going to have to use the old cursors. There we go, for a smoother operation. Walt Disney Company admitted that the leaked Snow White and Seven Dwarfs photos are indeed from the Walt Disney Company's production of the upcoming film starring Rachel Zegler and apparently Gal Gadot, despite initially claiming they were fake. So the story that they're falling back on now, Eric, is that, oh, we never said that they were fake. We just said they weren't official. You didn't release them. The set photos were originally reported by the Daily Mail on Friday and showed 7 individuals supposedly playing the film's dwarfs, despite none of them looking anything like the 37 film, which we don't expect them to. But here's how they looked. We see one dwarf. Um, who else do we have here?
Wait. So that second guy is like a dwarf and a half, or what's happening with the guy with the
I don't know.
afro?
I wanted to go through them and analyze them. We've got an obvious dwarf here who looks very happy. Then we've got a black guy with a bow who maybe is just like, I'm going to play Donatello from the Ninja Turtles. What we've got here third, I think, is a Ryan Long character. It looks like really going for the fisherman look, but I want to know where he got the suit jacket. The fourth guy just said, I'm a pirate. I'm going to go at this role as a pirate. To hell with dwarfs and dwarfism. I'm just a pirate guy who's going to sniff Snow White while she sleeps. That's what this guy's going. Also, probably on the pirate bandwagon, this black guy, Eric. I don't know what he's doing.
He's got some kind of a little like Tyrone Bigham vibe, or
Now, tell me how this woman fits in here with like the dwarfs are supposed to protect Snow White. I don't know. They're probably going to give the 2 black people the traits that they thought were the least offensive. So they can't be sleepy. Maybe bashful. I don't know. I don't even remember the sleepy, bashful,
greedy.
Is that one?
I genuinely don't know.
Dancy.
What's going on in the back there?
That is a guy, I believe he's playing a 1943 Polish woman, who's just trying to, get bread for her family in wartime. Please, no, I don't want it. Looks like my friend Dave, by the way.
So their cop out is, we said they weren't official. Is that the weasel word that they were? So what, we didn't say they were fake. We said they weren't official. And now I don't remember exactly the wording, the phrasing that they used. So who knows what's going on, bro? These people are so despicable and manipulative, and they've gone full circle to the point where they want to bring in tall people to play dwarf. Okay, maybe none of those people are tall, right? The guy in the back is obviously the tallest, but so in order to be inclusive to everybody, I mean, are they even still calling it Snow White and the Seven Dwarves? Or are they calling it something else? Like,
probably just Snow White, if I had to guess. But
but you can't even say that either, because then that could just be considered racist. So maybe
it is racist.
They should just
Snow Woman, Snow Person,
Snow carbon-based life form.
That's right.
Maybe they should just not do this and come up with a new idea. How about that? Did they ever think of that for one split second? Just, it's all going to be offensive. Maybe we should get back to the drawing board. Maybe we should, start a vision board or a whiteboard or something and have a new idea.
No, we can't do that.
Okay.
And what we've learned, Eric, and we'll get to the rest of the article in a second, is that they don't consider dwarfs to be one of their protected classes. Black trans woman, intersex, non-binary. Shout out to do you guys have Credit Karma in the States? You know that website that lets you see your credit for free?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Saw a good commercial from them today where it was a person named some androgynous name, but it was clearly a girl pretending to be a boy or non-binary. They referred to the girl as they. It was like Bailey or something. Bailey checks their credit score every week. They know that. Blah 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 blah. Shout out Credit Karma. If anybody used that website, I'm not going to be using it anymore. Once you start pretending that something that's not real is real and just rewriting biology and history, I don't need to use your free website anymore. But maybe shouldn't have outed myself. But what?
Before you know it, you're not even going to be able to go to the grocery store trying to maintain a rule like that, right? Like, because they want nothing, especially in Canada. I mean, because you guys, like I always say, are perhaps at the front of the crazy train, and then maybe the UK, and then us, like as the Western world collapses. I don't know. Australia's in there too. It's all completely going bad, but perhaps the pendulum is swinging back, and the powers that be are going to stop at nothing to stop that. But as long as we're talking about the non-binary people, did you see the clip and I should have sent it to you because once again I'm completely unprepared. But there's the clip who I think did Elijah post it, or one of the bigger accounts posted it, of the girl, or was it Michael? Anyways, a clearly a woman with long hair, purple. She's actually kind of cute, but saying that she uses the term NB. So NB is meant for non-binary, but when you say it, when you refer to her as NB, you have to in your head visualize the letters ENBY, because if you were to say it and visualize just the two letters N and B, that would be offensive to black people who created the term NB to mean non-black. Did you get all that?
I think I understand that. Do I agree with it? No. And will I refuse to do so? Yes.
But did you see the clip? No.
No.
Okay.
So one of the people in this was the star Rachel Zegler's stunt double, which I don't know why there needs to be stunt doubles. Maybe it's just a stand-in. But Peter Dinklage was happy.
Wait, do I not know what Snow White is about at all? Why do they need
not. It's gonna be like a pirate movie. They're just gonna cross it over with Hook. Already a Spanish woman for some reason is Snow White. I mean, like you said, just create your own thing. It's been done. Mulan is Chinese. They didn't need to, copy something else and make it a Chinese woman. Make a Japanese one. Make a, Belle from that's in France. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is another thing. But all white people are the same, I guess. French and everything. You can't say the difference. But following the leak, Disney spokesperson informed the Daily Beast the photos are fake and not from our production. We are currently trying to have the Daily Mail issue a correction. However, the Daily Mail.
So that's the quote. They did use the word fake. If that's the
apparently.
Quote. Okay.
Fake. Well, you didn't ask us what we defined as fake. However, the Daily Mail would update their story, noting the article has been amended since initial publication to correctly identify the actress portraying Snow White as an extra who stood in for post-production photography. So what does that mean? They're fake and not from our production. So that's the word I guess they're using. The word production. So we're differentiating between the production of the movie and post-production photography for what we don't know.
Wait, hang on. However, the Daily Mail would update their story noting this article has been amended since initial publication to correctly identify the actress portraying Snow White as an extra who stood in. So I take that to mean they're calling it fake because that's not actually the woman who played Snow White. Right. So
stand-ins were used for Rachel Zegler and Andrew Burnap in these images. We are happy to clarify this point. So after they get the initial news out that they say this is fake, then they say, "Oh, by the way, by fake we mean these aren't the real actors, and this isn't the actual movie. This is post-production photography using other people so that people can generally get the look of what they look like." Following the Daily Mail's clarification, a Disney spokesman then told The Independent, very in tune with the British people apparently, the photos were indeed from the Snow White production. The spokesman said, "The images that ran in the Daily Mail are not official film photos. These show stand-ins for some town and do not feature Rachel Zegler or Andrew Burnap." Can we say now at this point that they're just liars, Eric?
Yeah, and I can't help... When we talk about stand-ins, I can't help but think about that Seinfeld episode, obviously.
Yes, of course, because he's also a little person. And then Kramer's the stand-in.
Yeah. And then he gets in trouble. The little person, he gets mad. Even back then, right, in 1993 or whatever it was, he got mad when George called him a midget. So even back then, we weren't allowed to say that. And then he gets in trouble for putting lifts in his shoes because the kid he's standing in for is growing too fast and he's going to be out of a job shortly.
I don't know why it's such a derogatory term. My only guess is that it's because it was used in a time when they were, seen as lesser. And maybe maybe there's a reason why, or I have no idea. Maybe we can get I would love to have Dylan Postal on here.
Right? It's because, in the establishment, the truth is no good, right? Like the truth in basically any sense of the word is completely inappropriate. So, right, like I mean, we're at the point where they're literally saying, I mean, you can't use the term woman for certain people. I mean, it's all a complete mess. But I guess the point is, it's all just to drive home the idea that they will maintain control in any way, shape, or form, right? So, I mean,
They give some hints here as to how woke it's going to be. The Star says, I just meant that it's no longer 1937 and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. Interjected then by Gal Gadot, who says she's not going to be saved by the prince. Zegler then confirmed she's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. Blah, blah, blah.
so
And the leader that her late father told her that she could be. So basically, Snow White's going to not be saved by. She ain't going to be saved by no man. Snow White ain't never going to be saved by no man. And then she's going to become the king and the ruler. And she doesn't need. That's why we don't need 7 dwarves, especially not males, Eric, because she doesn't need to be saved by anyone. And then she's going to be, a strong, powerful woman. And we can't have a strong, powerful white woman. We got to have a strong, powerful Hispanic woman and a strong, powerful Jewish woman. And I'm surprised and saddened by Gal Gadot.
we can't have the Jewish is like a little bit too close to regular white, so that's not really gonna fly.
Well, I'm surprised and a little bit saddened by Gal Gadot, who and because I haven't seen her anything super woke. Obviously, Super Woman, or is that what it is? What's she in? Wonder Woman is inherently going to be like girl power, but Wonder Woman is banned in a lot of Muslim countries because she's Israeli. So you would think that a person who experiences such stupidity like that would be like, well, I can understand why people don't like people telling other people what to do and shutting stuff down and like this. But no, she's all in. She worked for Huawei. I guess I just remembered that this is second. So she's all in to the industry. And they're just like, and so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in. Eric, what does that mean?
Okay.
You see yourself as a princess? All little girls see themselves as princesses, but you're taking that away from them. It's not supposed to be about love or being rescued or being a pretty princess. You take that away from them. The dwarves can't see themselves in this movie as heroic figures who are wonderful and protect this woman. The only thing you're allowed to see yourself as is a woman who's alone. That's the only thing. And probably a non-binary woman. That'll probably be non-binary shade
person
of black.
You can't say non-binary woman.
Person that bleeds.
Okay.
Oh God.
Look, I think I mentioned this last week as well, that I truly, and I'm not trying to be funny or anything here, like I don't even know the premise of the movie. I truly don't even know. Like, is that the one that she falls
asleep? It's a princess. She falls asleep eternally, and I think she can only be woken up until the prince kisses her.
Okay, so that is the one. I thought that was a different one. So the dwarves aren't going to kiss her. The dwarves are just her.
No,
friends?
The dwarves protect her.
And then Prince Charming kisses her. Does she eat an apple? Look, doesn't matter.
Yeah, the apple puts her to sleep. Blah blah blah. And the idea that the dwarves are, something to be mocked makes no sense. Like if you actually boil it down, which is stupid to boil down Disney plot. Like if you try to boil down Homeward Bound, I don't know if that's a Disney movie. 4 dogs making it home after they're lost and they can speak to each other. It's inherently right wing.
But
I think so.
So it sounds like the movie is going to be more different than the same, or is it the same? The plot line is the same, but they're gonna have different actors. So it's almost to the point where they are creating a new movie, but they know that they need the name to maintain the interest. Because if we come up with a new name, then people aren't going to hop on board with a new franchise or a new movie, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be a poison apple. It's going to be meat from Chick-fil-A, and that'll cause her to go vegan because that's the correct thing to do for the environment. She'll have a solar-powered something. Her cave. She'll live in a cave with no car, and it'll be powered by solar energy.
But they know that they need the name to sell the movie, but they don't want it to be traditional in any way, shape, or form because that is racist or whatever the term is.
It's racist because it's a white woman. It's sexist because Prince.
So why do you think they are not confident in their ability to create a new movie?
Like, for exactly what you said, because they'll have people will find something wrong with it. So if you do a movie, no matter what it is, they'll be like, why didn't you make it a trans movie? Why didn't you make it a gay woman? Why didn't you
Yeah,
make it a woman who's a tarantula? They wanted to take a movie that was traditional, that has name value, so you'll get the conservative women who pretend that they support conservatism, and then they're just like, well, I'll just break my rules just this once, and then they'll go see it. But then also they're saying that, it's a Hispanic woman and there aren't any dwarf people, so the progressives will try to go see it. All in all you've done is ruined something for a minimal gain.
Well, okay,
Again.
and I would argue that they may even look. I'm not a movie executive, but I would argue that, as we know, they will from time to time lose millions, if not billions, of dollars. But that's far less important than pushing the narrative. This whole thing is stupid. What's next? What do we have next? No more Snow White. I don't even
We
know.
have Justin Trudeau once again being heckled. Now, he's been heckled in this town before in Belleville, Ontario, but this time I want to see what your takeaways from this are. So he's being yelled at, being called a traitor and everything. Let's just go ahead and watch it. This is, he's really being heckled here. Warning, disturbing language. People say something against trans, maybe. Holding flags and signs, protesters hurled insults. Giant F Trudeau flag right behind him.
Arrest this piece of Arrest him! You're a criminal! You're a criminal! You're the reason why Mike and you can't get a apartment, nothing! You're a piece of criminal! You're a criminal! You need to be arrested! Such a fake smile!
He was celebrating the liberal child care benefit. I'll tell you about that after. Eric, have you ever seen a traitor chant for a world leader that wasn't from some like historical video or anything? This seems to me worse than worse than the highest level of anti-Trump sentiment. Like, I don't remember they would say F Trump, they would scream like he's a sexist and he's a racist, but a crowd chanting traitor, I don't recall, even at the height of anti-Trumpness.
That's a good question. I don't, nothing comes to mind for me either. But shout out to that guy who has a Trump flag. Donald Trump is not going to save the United States, so he certainly ain't going to save Canada. But shout out to him. And my question is, as you know, I'm of the mindset that voting is not on the level, to say the least, right? And I guess my main question is here: why is it that we will constantly see more people who do not? Well, I don't group them all together. I know people don't like broad sweeping generalizations, but Biden, Trudeau, Newsom, all of these weirdo establishment, big wigs, we constantly see them getting heckled and getting screamed down, and people don't like them, and those people are obviously called extremists and racist or whatever. But where is the tape of the people? Like, yeah, you see a couple people taking selfies, but we're talking about what, a sea of 50 or 60 people here, and quite obviously most of them are against Trudeau. So where do we have the footage of the fans? I mean, you can go back 5 or 6 years and see thousands of people chanting for Donald Trump, who love Donald Trump and want to hear him speak, and they're fans, they're applauding. Why do we never see that for Biden or Trudeau or Newsom? We see a handful of people, who want to get a selfie with him, but we don't see hundreds, if not thousands of people counteracting or countering, I should say, the people who don't like him. How is that possible?
I think it's because the people that don't like him are united in the fact that they don't like him. And then the people who are on the left who don't like him, don't like him because he's not left wing enough. So what you have is people on the moderate left, let's call them, even though that doesn't
No,
really
it doesn't
exist
exist.
anymore.
Yeah.
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 They're voting for him because, conservatives racist, they're anti-trans, all the tropes that people don't understand because they don't bother to look into anything. That's where Trudeau gets his vote in, and that turns out to be 32% of the country, which is a lot of seniors on the East Coast. And then you've got the French vote, which takes votes away from everybody, so they don't really like. If the French wanted to, they could put any one of the three major parties in power with a strong majority if they voted for liberal, conservative, or far leftists, but they don't. They vote for other French people. And what you have is the people that don't show up to anything that are just like, yeah, I vote Joe Biden, I vote liberal because, what's worse is the vile racists and sexists of the conservatives, not knowing what the reality is, not caring for some reason about tax prices. And I'll parlay that into how he's there to promote a child health or a child
Okay, wait.
benefit.
Before we
Yeah.
go into the child thing, I would argue, just answering my own question here, is that they do not have any actual supporters. They only have default brainwashed weirdos who only get the memo that the other side bad, but they couldn't tell you one thing they like about Trudeau. They couldn't tell you, most notably, the example I like to use is, I don't think you could find anybody, maybe this is hyperbolic, but I don't think you could find one person in the entire country who's not on television that can tell you one thing they like about Kamala Harris. It would be she's a black woman. That would be it. So they don't actually have any fans. They have people that know them because the TV tells them that they are not a racist and they're going to save the planet, but nobody actually likes them. And that's why you don't have crowds of people waiting for him to speak. Right? So you have people who don't like him, people who are paying attention and don't like him, and people who are not paying attention and just get the download. But nobody actually actively likes any of these people, I would argue.
Yeah. And it happens at a rate in which it's hard for anybody to believe what actually goes by the way of the elections is actually real, especially in a country like this where you only need, like I said, 32 to 35% to win, and it ends up being conservatives and liberals neck and neck almost every time. And then, who knows how much they can finagle through there. Trudeau is promoting the child care benefit, which is you get a couple $100 a month if you have 2 children or more. Of course, that is fundamentally a lie. And what I mean by that is what they could do is tax you less, but instead what they do is they want to take the majority of the money and they want to give you breadcrumbs back. So we're going to tax you guys. Gas is up to $100 or $1.70 per liter. I don't know what the equivalent is at, but it's very high, Eric. Because he just added another carbon tax. We will take all your money and then we'll give it a little bit back so that people will support him, because some people are fools. Hey, I'm struggling. Oh, here's a couple $100 a month since you have 2 kids and you're creating more taxpayers for us. How about not taking my money in the first place? I have this argument with my friend a lot where he's talking about, how he wants some taxes to remain. He's in the healthcare industry, so of course he supports that. I say there needs to be cuts there because it's shit anyways, and I would rather pay for a portion of my healthcare personally and then the government take it and waste it, which they do constantly with healthcare, which they do constantly of subsidizing colleges, et cetera, et cetera. I am on the side of what gives you the right to take my money and just give it to me, and I'll decide what to do with it. So in this case, where he's giving you couple $100 a month, I don't remember what it was, 200, 400, something like that. Just don't take it from the people. If you can afford to give it back, then just don't take it from us. It's the fact that you want to take 95% of it and then give it back to people because you know that most people aren't going to claim it, or a strong percentage of people aren't going to claim it because they probably don't know it exists. And he's going to probably blame, people aren't aware of this because they're hecklers. And the last thing that I took from this video, Eric, is the sheer amount of people and how close they're allowed to get to the leader of the country. I don't care if it's Trudeau. I don't care if it's his robot predecessor, Stephen Happa. I don't care if it's the next wannabe Chad Pierre Polyev, whoever it is. This crowd, of people should not be this close to the prime minister. And I understand America's 10 times bigger and has 10 times, 100,000 times the resources. But when they put out a place for the president to go, they map out like the 8 blocks or whatever it is. Here, you can have, and I'll bring it back up, you can have 100 people surround the prime minister within, violent distance of him, screaming in his face. We saw the one guy earlier screaming in his face, and whether you agree with him or not, Eric, he could do anything he wants to the prime minister. Where is your security? I've seen it firsthand. I went to go cover him. The only thing, they were just like, oh, he's coming out the front door, you guys. Just be aware, he's coming in the front door. And I'm just like, he's not coming in there. There's a back entrance, obvious. They thought they were tricking me. I just wasn't willing to go stand in a parking garage. And it's just like, you guys aren't smart. Either they don't care or they're just dumb. The eternal question, Eric, are they dumb or do they not care? It's pathetic security for the leader of our country for 4 guys to walk out and be like, it's okay that this large man who could, probably beat most of us up is 2 inches from the prime minister screaming the F word at him and calling him a traitor. Remember, that's okay. Great security, Canada. Great job.
Well, remember, it wasn't that long ago. I think somebody who was running for governor, was it governor or mayor, or somebody, I believe, running for mayor of New York, something in New York, a couple years back, who was actually attacked on stage. Like,
the Lee Zeldin guy.
Was it Zeldin? I don't want to confuse.
Yeah, it was.
So okay.
And the guy had a blade and he was mentally ill, and it was this whole thing where they didn't sue him because he was a veteran and he was mentally ill. In Japan, Eric, the last prime minister was assassinated, and then I wrote about an assassination attempt. I think it was in February, because they don't have any guns there. Just like in Canada, we probably have more guns than Japan. But the last prime minister was assassinated by a homemade gun. It looked like a musket went off. This guy was attempted to be assassinated with a homemade pipe bomb, which was luckily kicked away by, can't see my foot, kicked away, I'm making the motion, kicked away by a security guard, and then they bust out these briefcases that are bulletproof fabric, and they tackle the prime minister, again, very close to being assassinated, and it's just like, what are you guys doing? You have the person who's in charge of you here, in charge of the country, and your security is 4 guys, and you got to wait him through a crowd. Like, you see better security for Justin Bieber, Beyonce, you get any star.
Drake.
Shout out Drizzy. It's just pathetic. And as a person who is in the military, I know that's not the military planning that. That's 2 marketing chicks who are busy on one day they're doing Bud Light ads. They come back to work by Wednesday, and they're like, how do we protect the prime minister? Force security. Nobody in Canada is that mean. Force security guards to be nice. Oh, they're just angry. They're just anti-trans. That's the people deciding what to do there. Patrick Bet David spoke to your guy.
So also, how are we?
You don't want to get to Cuomo? What, Eric?
No, I do want to get to Cuomo, but how are we we're just still letting him slide on the blackface thing? Like, dude.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's just like, not once, but twice, if I recall, he was spotted in like basically black body, and we just pretend it didn't happen. Whatever. Okay.
So you care more about the black body than the black face. It's an echelon.
Well, it's just like, I mean, it would be one thing if they weren't, bro. They harp on race so much, and then you have him giving these weird to SL2G GSBQ CIA, and he tries to do it. It's like, dude, your whole thing is about this, and then we just pretend like you didn't wear I'm not offended by blackface. I don't care, but you guys clearly do, right? Like, nobody. For what was the year when it became unacceptable, right? You could ask Sarah Silverman or Jimmy, was it Fallon or Kimmel? I always get them confused. Kimmel. The guy who played Kimmel, who played Karl Malone. When so you guys are
Howard Stern.
They had an episode, 2 episodes, I believe, of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia removed from Hulu because they did blackface at what was clearly a joke. It was obviously hilarious, and if you have any, an IQ above room temperature, you would realize that the joke was really on them. It was sort of a self-deprecating thing, right? Because the guys in Sunny are actually quite clever. But somewhere along the lines, it just, became unacceptable. So you were doing it in 2002, dressed up as Karl Malone. Sarah Silverman was doing it. Trudeau was doing it probably, you know, somewhere in the mid-90s or whatever that was. And it was all fun and games. But now, quite a Joy Behar was doing it. But now it's just untouchable. And we just pretend it doesn't happen. It's just ridiculous.
And it's the same people. It's not like it was historically different people.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Before we get to Cuomo being ridiculous on the PBD podcast, we're reminding you about our Patreon account, patreon.com/EOPod. If you sign up, you get a bonus podcast every week where it's uncensored, unmitigated chaos, where I'm usually wearing a costume of some kind. It is patreon.com/UOPod. That's Canadian prices, so it's even cheaper for those of you guys. Please help us out. You know, pimping ain't easy. It's an everyday struggle. Working on the weekend, like usual, as Drake says. And that's patreon.com/UOPod. If you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, Getter, and Twitch, we love the new Rumble audience. Thanks for watching on there. Please subscribe and share whatever you're on. If you're listening on audio, don't forget to check out the Patreon, because we can show stuff in full there. We don't have to cut stuff up because we won't be copyright striked, which we were recently, and we've been stricken by Jimmy Fallon before. So please consider the Patreon at patreon.com/UOPod. Uncensored, everything's in full. Eric goes off the rails. We call it driving into the wall. But it's a good time, and we do it towards the end of the week is when it comes out, and there's exclusive stuff that nobody else sees there. Super chat from somebody. DMC, EMC. That P test looks staged. Great show, thank you. Protest, he means, not a P test. I was like, who did a urine test? One day I'll talk about the urine test I almost had to take in the military on a Patreon thing. That's
I cannot
a deep
wait
story.
to,
one day, Eric, once we get enough Patreon subscribers, there will be many of, you know, I have near death stories, P test story, disgusting stories.
Yeah, well, thanks for the super chat. I cannot wait to split that amongst the two of us. It's going to be amazing.
We're thankful anyways, aren't we, Eric?
Absolutely.
So Patrick Beck-David, who, you know, I messaged Eric about this interview before watching this full clip, because it starts off by going, you know, here are the things that I'm not going to ask you about. A gate of pizzas. No, wait, that was
Weiner. That was
Anthony Weiner. Yeah, he redeemed. You're right. He redeemed himself in that clip by really pissing off Anthony Weiner. But in this clip, Chris Cuomo, they showed him. You know,
stop. Wait. I just want to go back to that Weiner clip. I thought that was very smooth. He's like, I mean, for him to say, here are the things that we're not going to ask you about. I mean, come on, bro. You got to.
Anthony Weiner is scum. Let's point out.
Did you see the end of it? Before, and
no.
I want to get to this Cuomo. I do want to get to this Cuomo interview, but at the very end of the Weiner interview, Pat says, dude, it's just such a smooth like jab at Weiner, where he says something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but he says, look, and he keeps calling him Guy, which is just disrespect. he says, look, Anthony, you know, he says that the next time you're on the radio, you're going to have your highest rated show, which is obviously like, you should be thanking me for this. Okay. And then he says, I know that you choose to live your life differently than I choose to live my life.
Yeah.
And then Weiner like loses it. And it's like 2 minutes before the thing ends. And he's like, oh, that's a shot. That's a shot. It's like, dude, that's a shot because you are, it's like the same thing when people get mad about Jason Aldean, or, you know, when people associate, you know, the LGBTQ whatever CIA community, they're saying, well, why are you? They out themselves, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make, right? When they link, you know, the child diddlers with the LGBT, and when they link black people with rioting, you have created that link, so you're outing yourself, right? So you're getting mad that Pat says you choose to live your life differently. It's like, well, it's true, and you're the one drawing the connection. I didn't even have to say it. You did it.
Yeah, really. I know what you're alluding to, and it's terrible things, and while they may be true. So he just got finished showing him on that clip where they sync all the local media reports by together that say, we're on the lookout for misinformation, that sort of thing. So he
Dangerous
asked,
to our democracy.
yes, exactly. And so he asked Cuomo, he was on the inside. And what we're about to hear is Chris Cuomo say, particularly about how he said that in that clip where he says, who said rioting's supposed to be peaceful? Tell me what you think he said here, because it sounds like on one hand that he's saying that they cut the clip short, but then on the other hand, it sounds like he's saying that the clip wasn't cut short, but nobody cared to ask what he means about it, which is that he thinks that it's all against the law.
One sits there and says, Chris, you were on the inside, bro. This is the kind of stuff that causes us to not trust anybody. Now that you're somewhat on the outside, you're still with News Nation, but you got your own show. Now you see the reason why American people lost trust in media?
Well, no, I don't see it differently now. Look, I can't say this strongly enough. I do not believe, and I have never experienced, and look, people can like what I do, don't like what I do. The answer to your question is why I sound different is we've never had a conversation before.
Oh.
Is that most exposure to what I do is things taken in clips and put out into a context that people want it to be in. I don't believe in the First Amendment.
Lie.
You can't download things. All this bullshit that people say about me is
okay.
Just,
the first thing he's going there, Eric, as we know very well, you can't. It's illegal for you to get this, so that's why you're getting it.
The
from
emails,
me.
yes.
That's not it's the Hillary Clinton emails. That's not an out of context clip. What he's saying is true. Is that you're not a regular person is not allowed to be in possession of stolen emails if they were found to be in possession of something that is illegal for them to possess it. You're allowed to read it through the media, but what he said, they didn't cover any of the good stuff. They didn't cover, them selling the ambassadorship to wherever. They didn't cover, $1 million for the Moroccan president to meet with Bill Clinton. They didn't cover, hey, 50,000 hot dogs for this pizza party at the White House. They didn't cover any of that. So what they're saying is only come to us because it's dangerous for you to get the stuff. And therefore, what we're saying is you can trust us to sift through it. They were caught lying throughout the whole thing. And he acts like that's not something that was accurately portrayed because of this clip. I'm sorry that your clips of you are shit. And I was saying this when I was watching this the other day with people, saying that, the only reason Chris Cuomo sounds differently is because he knows he's going to mention how nobody ever told him to say anything, is he has to still self-filter himself through this lens of people that pay him. When you work for the CNNs, and I don't know anything about News Nation, but you still have to self-censor because there's things that you can't say. So when he's talking about, oh, I sound different because you meet me, people like Patrick Bet-David, Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, they don't have to be, super careful about what they say because you can go back and look at the clip. I'm sorry that you work for CNN and people consumed you through this hour broadcast every night. But when Tim Pool says something and somebody clips it out, he can say, here's the full context. It doesn't sound like that's what's happening with Chris Cuomo. It sounds like what he's about to talk about is him saying, you just misunderstood me. That's all that's out there. So you don't really know me.
Bro, they think we are incredibly, incredibly stupid. So Fredo, remember there was a clip where we thought he might be coming into like a moment of clarity or something? I don't know if you remember that when he I was on his other radio show or Sirius XM or something and sort of had this epiphany where he this was only shortly before he was out, booted from CNN, where he said something along the lines of how he wasn't enjoying it. And he sort of alluded to the idea that he knew maybe something was wrong. We also have the possibly right behind the Hillary Clinton email thing, there was the situation of him pretending to be quarantining, and he was.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, and then we have the "I'll throw you down these stairs" out on Fire Island in New York,
fighting the guy on the motorcycle.
Well, I think it wasn't it a bicycle? I think it was just
Whatever.
a bicycle. But yeah. So, and then we also have the Q-tip incident, right, where the establishment is telling us that we are living through the most deadly disease ever, and if you don't wear this mask, then you're going to kill. It's all about respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when Andrew Cuomo at some point in time switched it from being from keeping you safe from a deadly disease to being about respect? Wait, so bro, I thought this was about safety and health and well-being, but you pivoted and literally are putting billboards up all over the city, and I realized this is Andrew but they are obviously brothers. They were both handed everything on a silver platter because their crooked, corrupt father was the governor, but that's a completely different story. So somehow Andrew Cuomo turned it to where it's no longer about health and safety, but it's about respect. And then you guys go on and have a little Cuomo prime time where you guys are laughing and joking with a giant Q-tip. So on one day, this is the most deadly disease ever. On the second day, you guys are doing prop comedy on a news show. and it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. Do we think for one split second that Don Jr. could be on cable TV 5 nights out of the week and there wouldn't be a conflict of interest if his dad is in any political office? But somehow, some way, Chris Fredo Cuomo is allowed to go on television 5 nights out of the week while his brother is the governor creating mandates and curfews and ruining the entire economy, and then had the nerve to say, if you're eager to get back to work, then you should choose an essential job, and then write a book about how good of a leader he was, and then create a poster and sell a poster about climbing the mountain of COVID and coming back down the other side, all before getting kicked out of office for playing grab ass with a secretary or something? Give me a break, bro. These people are despicable, and it drives me up a wall.
That might have been one of your greatest promos of all time, Eric. Might have been.
Playing to an agenda and advantage, and that's okay. That's the price of entry. But that's why I sound different, is that we've never spoken before. I'm not different. Nobody ever told me what to say or not say at CNN, and I would have told them to take a walk if they did.
Let's walk a bit more.
And I don't know about any conspiracy to go after anybody other than what's obvious. And Chuck Schumer saying that about the Intelligence Committee, he needs to explain his context on it. I don't disagree with his assessment. I mean, I feel the same way when I tell people what's going to happen if they start messing with a cop during a stop. I mean, which way do you think this is going to go? Not that cops are evil, but do you think it's going to go well for you if you start shit talking a cop during a traffic stop? Do you think good things are going to happen? So I just think when you mess with people with power, you got to be careful. What was he alluding to? I don't know. Did he create an article of convenience for people who want to defend Trump? Absolutely. That's politics. You got to be careful what you say. One of the reasons we haven't spoken before is, and I come here in good faith, and I believe that PBD podcast, I've watched about 14 of them, 15 of them. You come from a good place. You're a straight shooter about what you believe and why. I think you can get carried away with things, but that's within the realm of choice. I don't do a lot of this because people clip it up and use it to promote crazy
this is what
things.
I'm saying, Eric. People can't take stuff of Joe Rogan or Tim Pool or whomever.
Welcome
Andrew
to 2023, Chris.
Out of context, because they can, but it's easily found out to be a lie because the context exists outside of that. And he's got a podcast now. That's not why he's not doing these things. What's the problem? If somebody puts something on Twitter about you and they put this whole lie out about you, and then somebody comes along and says, this is actually false, yeah, you're going to get a bunch of morons who think the wrong thing about you. But if the context exists otherwise, then, it sucks, but you're vindicated. You should be able to live with yourself. I can live with myself knowing that if somebody takes me out of context, I can point to that I believed in what I said, or I have something to back it up, or the greater context before and after exists in the very same clip in which you clipped it from. He doesn't want to have to explain the shitty things he said because he was on CNN, and he can say that they didn't tell him to say anything, but he knows there's certain things that people can't talk about. I know people where they've worked where they can't talk about things. I've worked in places where nobody's telling you can't say things, even though some people told you that you can't say some things. Pause. But there's things that you can't talk about, even if people don't tell you that you can't talk about them. Chris Cuomo says he knows he can't go on CNN and say, George Soros funded all these things, or COVID vaccine this, BLM that. He knows that. And if he doesn't have any fear about any of that, then that's because he's got enough money to not have any fear about it.
Well, wouldn't you want people to clip up your content, right? Like, wouldn't you want fan accounts, you would want to go viral, you would want for your content to be popping. But if you, like you said, if you're if you're saying stupid things and you're bad at your job, then yeah, you wouldn't want to have to defend every single little thing that gets clipped up, but you're bringing it on yourself, right? Like
he wants us to believe that he is so cool and doesn't care so much that he doesn't. I don't want to go on these podcasts. He's Travolta. I don't want to go on these podcasts and have to defend myself with these out of context clips.
Yeah, I'll throw you down these stairs. Look.
Or is it the fact that you believe some of this stuff and you said it on CNN and you don't want to have to defend it?
But also
that I don't believe and I don't say, and I
pause. He wants us to believe that if somebody at CNN told him what to say, he would tell them to take a walk. Really?
The only way he would do that, Eric, is if he has enough millions of dollars to take a walk. If he was fired for that, which he eventually was.
Yeah, but does he actually want us to believe that he was going to? And it's different now, right? It's July 2023, which is much different from whatever July 2021. Okay.
Yeah.
But do we think for one split second that he was going to put his foot down and tell Jeff Zucker to kick rocks? If he,
in 2016, Eric, he was really shooting it straight. He was really talking about how how Hillary Clinton said to John Podesta, we want the mass of people to be dumb and uninformed. He was really he was shooting it straight. He was not defending the Clintons at all by there was thousands upon thousands of emails, at least hundreds of which were saying how they were doing corrupt things, meeting with journalists, having a dinner with CNN and Washington Post journalists.
Having discussions with his brother on how to cover his brother. I mean, give me a break. Do we think for one
the graphs on CNN that they preferred to be showed? The graphics,
the death counter and all that stuff, but nobody on the entire planet, not one single person would say that it's completely non-biased to have the little brother of the governor interviewing the governor on who is going to believe that there's not going bro, they're flesh and blood, quite literally. Now, yeah, all family members don't get along, but do we think that he's not going to go to bat for Andrew? Like, give me a break, bro. And the giant Q-tip, you guys bought giant Q-tips off Amazon or something for a comedy bit while telling people that they couldn't go to work?
That's right.
Can't correct. So I just never really spoke about it, and I never really defended myself, because what is true, what is groupthink, and not just at CNN, but at ABC and at Fox before that, is they're very careful about having you defend a proposition when really you'll probably just give it more oxygen. And things go away, especially now with all this media. There's also less attention span. So we move from one thing to the next. So the best advice in a crisis is always just, if there's no process attached, shut up and it'll move on. And I have borne that burden.
So he
many
admits,
times.
if you're wrong about something, you don't want to have to explain it. Just move on and hope that the hurricane goes past your house instead of, building as the hurricane happens. Just let it be demolished, and then you'll buy a new house the next day because you can. So,
or like the
great
Hillary Clinton said in the Wiener interview, and they played the great Hillary Clinton. What does it matter? What does it even matter now? They're like, or Bill Gates. He's dead now. Just don't think about it.
He came, he saw, he died.
You could play a list of clips of things that people weaponize about me. I could defend every single one.
But I just don't want to. I'm a tough guy.
Whether it's the Shelter Island thing, I have answers for all of them. Anything I've ever said that's wrong, I've corrected.
A lie.
And you're going to say things that are wrong, by the way. You know what I mean? You're on live TV
That's
all the
totally
time.
fine. Yeah,
but anything where Cuomo says there's the protests are not meant to be. Where does it say protests are supposed to be peaceful? It has millions of views on the internet. Like, I don't know what the First Amendment is. Well, what's the context? Some of the early George Floyd protests. You got black people, their allies, angry, yelling in the face of cops. Either spit coming out of them or flying out of their mouths because they're so angry. And
there's a lot of white people doing that too.
Wanting them to go home. And I say, hey.
Notice he won't even say that they're burning stuff down and looting. I think he might get to that, but he's like, mostly
protests
peaceful.
Will be angry. People are going to say things that you don't want to hear. It's going to be mean. There's going to be hateful speech. The cops are going to take, a verbal beating. But here's the part you never heard. The moment you touch person or property, you become a criminal, you become what you oppose, and it's a riot. Now, I know Dr. King had a different explanation of a riot being,
Dr.
sometimes
King.
the
Wait,
desperation of the voiceless.
Let's let
But
it
in the
play 30
law,
seconds.
it's a crime. I don't get that. I get that. I said, who said protests are supposed to be peaceful? Why? Because it makes me look like an idiot and advance a cause that I am defending the BLM people in a way that I don't defend, I don't know, some other group. Is that true? No, it's not even close to true. Well, then how come I never said this? Because who would have given a shit?
Exactly. So he says that he didn't have to go and defend it. He didn't actually say that other stuff that he said, as soon as you cross over into being a rioter, it's against the law. He didn't actually say that. But why would I go and clarify that? Because who cares? You should care, dude. If somebody has a clip of me saying, it's
You were
like
gay.
me making fun of Eric if being gay, blah, 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 and they combine it with like hate and stuff, like I've never had gay friends or something, and they put that out there, I would be like, yeah, that was a joke. You cut it out of context. Not why do I even care? I'm not going on these podcasts and correcting this stuff. Why would I even care? It's just the most viewed clip about me. So you don't care. You're such a cool guy, Chris Cuomo, that you don't care that the most popular clips about you are about you defending Hillary Clinton and defending violent protests, so much to the point that you don't even want to correct the record until 5 years later, vaguely on a podcast, and say, not that was cut out of context. He's not saying that it was cut out of context. He's saying that he didn't say it. So you should have known you should have known what he meant, Eric.
Yeah, well, of course, that's their whole thing. Is like you have like you have to play the game. You have to jump through the hoops, right? That's why certain groups can say the word queer, but others can't. That's why there's another word that some people are allowed to say and others aren't. I don't know if you're familiar with that. There's one word that really makes people angry. They say it all the time, right? It's in the music and it's in the movies, and they're constantly saying it. But then there's another group of people that are not allowed to say it because that would just be beyond the pale. But I wanted to say shout out to whoever it was, the social media creator who made the clip go super viral, right? And remember when he's eating the raw ramen noodles and he's like, it's right here, the First Amendment, Mr. Cuomo. So shout out to that guy. That was genius. And it went hugely viral. Imagine being Chris Cuomo at whatever, 50 or 60 years old or whatever he is, being owned by some like 20-year-old kid in a dorm room with a packet of ramen noodles, just going completely viral over your stupid statement. And lastly, which I haven't said today, hey, there was that moment in the clip where he says, yeah, protests are going to be mean and protests are going to be nasty. Is that right? Because I know of a handful of other protests that occurred before the world knew who George Floyd was. There was a handful of people, I don't know, 30 or 40, 50 people at City Hall.
Is this about you?
Yeah. It was incredibly peaceful, and there was no spray paint, and there was no drugs, and there was no destroying statues, and there was nothing like that. So
you do look cool in your arrest photo, though.
I think, yeah, they got my good side. I think that all protests aren't like that, Mr. Cuomo, right? But we don't want to talk about that because at that particular point in time, it was all about health and safety. It was so unhealthy. You were gonna die. You were gonna kill grandma. Only to fast forward 4 weeks, and now some weirdo dope fiend in Minnesota is far more important than the deadliest virus that we've ever lived through. Somehow.
All right, let's spend the last couple minutes here on rapper Burner, who has been sued again. Now, this is one of our most watched.
Is this a new one, or is this the one
a couple weeks ago?
Okay.
This is the third time he's been sued this year, I believe, over his brand's cookie. Similar thing we talked about before, where Eric is one of his most heated backlashes, along with what's his name, Richie the Clown.
I'm glad I don't check in on those comments because I probably get triggered.
But people saying Eric doesn't know what he's talking about. A few people agree with him. Some people that don't like Burner, but he owns, he's a rapper who owns this weed brand that's very popular, one of the biggest in the Western Hemisphere, and he's being sued. They're saying that they took, lined their pockets is the quotes they use. I guess this is a legal matter, so again, we can talk in legal terms here. at the expense of the business, they lined their pockets. Now, Eric said that he believes that a lot of this is fronting for illegal operations, but let's just read a bit of this,
Well,
and then we'll both have a little segment on it.
yes, I
Yeah.
do think. I mean, let's just put into perspective that not just this brand, but when you think about a lot of rappers in general, right? We can go all the way back to the '90s, Suge Knight, up to current day Young Thug. There's typically something behind the facade, right? There's typically something behind the face of the business. And before we get into it, I just want to preface, like, I have no problems with Burner, bro. Like, he's a successful dude. Obviously, he did something very, very right. But I will say, as somebody who is quite familiar with the cannabis industry, especially in California, I will give him the credit. We'll say, I don't want to blame him, but give him the credit with over marketing everything and turning weed into this designer stuff. And people are pretending
it's really
that they
nice clothes.
well, but they can. People are pretending that they can tell the difference between this weed and that weed when I don't believe they can. It's not. It's you can tell the difference between a PBR and a Guinness, right? If you're talking about beer. But I think there are very few strains of weed that people can genuinely tell the difference from if it's not put in a different package or a different bag.
Well,
but
let's just tell people. Let's just tell you to go back and watch the other Burner clip about his other lawsuit. Get Eric's full view on this, just for time's sake.
It just they over marketed the entire thing is the point I'm trying to make for money, and it worked. It's successful, but it's a little bit of a scam there.
So the third lawsuit alleges that is using improper business tactics. A pair of lawsuits filed earlier this year accused the executives of siphoning off millions of dollars in kickbacks, with one lawsuit from a group of investors accusing the Cookies brass of using threats of physical violence to, quote, strong arm and bully others into paying them millions of dollars in personal benefits and kickbacks. This is from everybody's favorite San Francisco Gate, by the way, which is kind of a shitty outlet. So we'll take that into consideration.
It's free.
The latest lawsuit filed last week in LA Superior Court by the cannabis breeding company Seed Junkie, that's a red flag already, Eric, that it's a different weed company, claims that Cookies and Seed Junkie launched a joint venture named Mints in 2019 to sell products. The lawsuit accuses executives of Cookies of abusing their power to cook Mints' books to Seed Junkie's detriment, and alleges that Cookies executives use fraud to line their pockets at Seed Junkie's expense. Burner, whose real name, or they're dead naming him, Gilbert Milam Jr. I'm pretending he's French. Executives stole cannabis strains and that they provided false and fraudulent financial data. So this is the third lawsuit, Eric. And when this sort of stuff starts happening and people are piling on, I can't help but think that, it's not exactly on the level. And what I mean by that is when you get one person saying the executives are lining the pockets, and then you get a second person saying it, and then you get a third person saying, hey, he also touched me on an airplane or in an elevator or in a change room in a bookstore in Manhattan, it starts to lose credibility. If this was a problem in 2019, then why didn't you guys come up with this before? They're strong-arming people to line their pockets. I'd be willing to believe that they stole your branded seeds or whatever it was. But am I willing to believe that you waited 4 years on your own to start suing somebody, and it wasn't because other executives and other people suing them said, hey, let's pile on? That's where you lose me, Eric. Just like, Trump and this woman in this place in New York City during a book signing where he allegedly did stuff to her in a change room. Burner says it was completely false, which we covered in a different video. And he said basically before that they've been trying to kick him out. They think the brand will be better without him. He of course denies that. Who is it said? Yeah, Burner said dude's been crying like a little B word on Instagram, throwing subliminals. You failed, bro. You failed. Seed Junkie did not pop. So Burner's saying that it's just your failed company. And, 4 years later, that's what it is. I'm still going to be on Team Burner here, Eric. Do you have any other perspective that you want to throw at me? Get a little bit more hate comment. Fuel the algorithm.
Yeah, I would love for you to go back up to the top of the article very quickly. Can you go back up to the top?
To which part?
Like the first paragraph. Okay.
This one?
Let's see. The lawsuit accuses Cookies executives. Oh, now you're
this one or the other one?
Here, let's leave it here. With one lawsuit from a group of investors accusing Cookies Brass of using threats of physical violence to strong arm and bully others into paying them millions of dollars in personal benefits and kickbacks. Okay. Are we putting it past a drug dealer, right? Let's call it what it is, right? You can say, oh, it's medicine, whatever. I mean, you're a dope dealer. It's fine, right? You can make it legal in California because they want to turn everybody into zombies who smoke weed all day, every day. I've seen it, right? So you could still be sort of docile, right? You're not going to be bad down enough to sleep on the street like you're doing, self-vaccinating under the Bay Bridge. But they want people smoking this stuff all day, so they will not stand up to crooked, corrupt politicians like London Breed and Gavin Newsom and Scott Wiener and all that stuff. So the idea that Cookies Brass was threatening people, is that really beyond the pale? Do you really think for one split second a dope dealer and his boys are beyond strong-arming a competitor in California? Give me a break, bro. Of course that very likely could have happened. And, it was 4 years ago. There's no way that somebody waiting 4 years through Rona, the scariest time of our entire lives, when they probably couldn't even get to a lawyer because everybody was scared to breathe the air outside their front door, is even comparable to some woman who wants to bring up charges against Trump or Brett Kavanaugh 30 years after the fact because they're running for political office. So I would venture to say that there could have been a number of reasons why a few years, maybe they tried to work, we don't know all the details, maybe they tried to work something out. Maybe they were building a case. Who knows what happened in that 4 years? And I don't have that. I'm definitely not on team Seed Junkie or whatever. I'm not going to go to bat for them, but I'm also not going to put it beyond Berner and his cronies to strong arm people. Give me a break, bro. Like, we're talking about a pot smoking rapper. Do we think for one split second that it's beyond him to step outside the lines a little bit? Give me a break. It's all quite possible. I am not going to sit here and say he did it. I'm not going to sit here and say that Seed Junkies is owed millions of dollars, or because I don't know. But to pretend that this is beyond Berner and his posse is ridiculous. Of course, this is all really quite possible.
Get Richie the Barber on the line. Get Berner on the line. Get somebody else on the line that Eric disagrees with. Get the Cuomos on the line. They're coming for you, Eric. And I'm going to stand there. I'm going to say, it's him. It's him right there, man. Here's the guy, Cuomos. No, I don't like the Cuomos. Richie, tattoo the clown stuff on his face. Permanently glue that clown wig to his head. Like Sideshow Bob's hair or something. Or Krusty. Let me tell you something, kid. This isn't makeup.
Yeah, bro. This is absolutely ridiculous. Like, look, you listen to Berner's music, I'm sure, more than I do.
Right.
But
right.
in the rap world, half the time is spent expressing how tough and strong and
how criminalistic we are.
How un-F-withable you are. Nobody could touch you. And again, I don't know much about Berner's music. But if we're talking about hip hop in general, they spend 50% of their time talking about how tough they are, about how I got shot 9 times, this, that, and the other. And I love that. I grew up on 50 Cent. I like Future. I love Kanye West. Obviously, Kanye's a little bit different subject matter wise, but it's like you spend half the time talking about how tough you are. You spend 30% of the time talking about women. You spend another 10 talking about how much money you have, and then another 10 abstractly, coming up with things that don't make any sense, but they rhyme. So yes, this is quite possible that Berner and his buddies did this to gain a little bit more money. I don't think that's even remotely out of the question.
Patreon.com/UOPod. New podcast, bonus podcast every week on there. Sign up. Shout outs in chronological order. Quebec sucks. That's a good name. Treaty. Don't know what that means. Cro-Magnon. Lyle Crawford. And EMC, thanks again for the super chat. We will see you guys next time. Patreon.com/UOPod. Sign up. You have nothing. What do you have to lose? Your schools are failing. Your towns are burning. They did it. They burned the towns. Eric, last words.
Buy my book. The African Americans love it. It's great.
Shout out Jason Scoop for blowing up via his Trump impression. See you guys next week or the end of this week on Patreon.
Turn it up, Jordan.